practical. A very good afternoon to you all, fellow creatives and entrepreneurs. It's an absolute honor to usher the next discussion under the theme, The Creative Economy, a World of Opportunities, the International Perspective. And as you've heard from the speakers who came before me, the session is about exploration. Exploring how creativity can be more than just an expression, but also an economic power. You know, around the world, the creative economy has proven to be a powerful driver of economic growth, job creation, youth empowerment, and cultural influence. From film, music, fashion, media, creativity is one of the fastest growing sectors connecting talent, technology, and trade. But however, here in Botswana, we have an exciting crossroads, if I may say. We have talent, it's all across the room. We have stories, and definitely we have culture. But the question is, how do we translate all this talent, all this creativity into a global opportunity? How do we move from being consumers of global creativity to become active exporters of African ideas, active exporters of African content, and most importantly, experiences? Now, to unpack this, we are privileged to be joined by an incredible lineup of leaders, trailblazers representing film, media, music, fashion. I'm talking about people who've built platforms across borders. They've influenced culture and inspired the next generation. So our goal here this afternoon is to draw lessons, practical lessons from their experiences to understand what actually works internationally, what barriers exist, but most importantly, how can Botswana or Botswana creatives position ourselves in this global economy? Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to call up on stage Mr. Monde Twala, President of Paramount Pictures Africa. A round of applause, please. Monde. Next up on stage, I will call upon Mr. Bongumusa Makatini, CEO of Prime Media Out of Home. A round of applause. Next up, they are followed by Mr. Denham Richards, co-founder and CEO of Opulent Entertainment Group Africa. You'll explain later why your applause was the loudest, Mr. Denham. These gentlemen are followed on stage by Mr. Nkosiyati Kumalo, Editor-in-Chief of Billboard Africa. All the way from Los Angeles, Dr. Frederick Martin, Grammy Award-winning vocal producer and founder of Compton Fashion Week. And last but definitely not least, Koketso Chepe, founder of Koki Kamala. Allah, Allah. The rose amongst thorns. You can, gentlemen, let's start it off like this. Let's start with the lady. Please introduce yourself so that they know exactly who's in the room. Please grab a mic, Oketso. Introduce yourself and your business. Go ahead. Mike.
Good afternoon.
Switch on the mic, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Koketso Chepe, and I am a fashion designer with a global presence. I have a luxury fashion line called Koki Kamala We collaborate with artisans globally, telling African heritage stories. And I'm from Botswana.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Hello, Botswana. I am Fred Martin. I'm the founder of Compton Kids Club, Compton Performing Arts Academy, Compton Modeling Agency, and Compton Fashion Week. I'm from Compton, by the way. and I'm a Grammy Award-winning producer, a voted member of the Grammys. I had some fellow voted members of the Grammys out there.
Possibina, yes.
Yeah. I also do some casting consulting for American Idol, and I sit on the board with Mayor Bass of Global LA as well. And So we train all things youth, from performing arts, fashion, social justice, environmental justice. So anything youth, we have our hand on the pulse of what's happening in pop culture.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nkosi Yati Kumalo, but please call me Yati. I am the editor-in-chief of Billboard Africa, just launched in July. Billboard is the music industry's news and chart platform, the definitive news and chart platform for the music industry, covering storytelling and the music business worldwide. We're so excited to be here today, and it's a pleasure to see so many beautiful people, also across sectors. This is fantastic. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Yati.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Denham Richards. I'm the founder and CEO of Opulent Entertainment Group, where Opulent Entertainment Group invests in every medium of the entertainment value chain all around Africa. And we also are the company that founded and produced Dining with Diamonds. So if you saw them, that's coming from us with all of our amazing artists that are on this side. And I'm also the ambassador to Botswana with the African Union for the Diaspora. So I have a tremendous interest in making sure that Botswana are going global all over the world, as well as making certain that we have a thriving and sustainable entertainment industry here in the great country of Botswana.
Thank you, Denham.
Good afternoon. My name is Bongo Musa Makatini. I'm CEO of Prime Media Out of Home. We have business interests in 8 countries in Africa. We run broadcasting. We have a studio business. We also do basically sports, specifically in South Africa, but we have presence in about 8 countries in the continent.
There we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having us. The name is Monde Twala. I'm the Senior Vice President for Paramount Africa, probably better known for some of our products, which is MTV, MTV Base, which is the #1 youth music channel on the continent, #1. BET, Comedy Central, Nickelodeon channels. We've got Nicktoons, Nick Jr. and Nickelodeon. Those are some of our channels that we have across the market. And previously, I ran ETV for quite a number of years. Great passion. My passion is youth. Great to see on the panel that there are youth enthusiasts. I'm a big youth enthusiast, leveraging content and pop culture. It's no longer about taking Africa to the world. Africa is in the world, and that's a big...
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we have an extraordinary talent right here from different industries. And as I did say at the start of our conversation, and I did tell you folks backstage, a lot of people here have been to a lot of seminars. They've been to workshops. You are international players, and you are here to give us the key, the bridge, practical experience and formulas to take us from where we are as Botswana creatives and to the next level. So our focus will be positioning Botswana in the global market space. And my first question is going to be this: how can Botswana position itself in the international creative economy, leveraging on entertainment? Denham, I'd love for you to take that one because you understand Botswana more than most of these folks here since you've been around for a while. So how can Botswana position itself in the international creative economy, leveraging of entertainment?
It's a great question, and I think it's an important one. And I think, as you said when we talked about this, we do a lot of these panels all around the world, and oftentimes you get a lot of creatives we ask them to come, and then we kind of talk at them and not with them. And everybody wants something that feels like when you leave here, you can go do something. So I'll answer it, I think, in two ways. I think number one, from the private sector, from more the business, the higher level side of it, I think it's the private sector has to play a little bit more of a role of understanding the value proposition of entertainment. Here in the country of Botswana, there's so much talent, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of structural things in place to be able to export. And so what we really just need to do, it's the talent is already there. It's our job really now at this point to be able to create strategic partnerships with a Prime Media, with a Paramount, to be able to say, hey, what is the value proposition that you guys are looking for, and how can we begin to lend ourselves to what it is that you already have? You know, it's the same way when you're looking at it. You don't need to build everything from the ground up. Sometimes you have to go to something that's already existing and plug into that. And I think sometimes when you're trying to compete at an international market, you're going to be left behind because you're trying to do everything from ground zero. So I think that we'd be in a much better place if we had more strategic partners. And I think that for us at Opulent, that's one of the things that our major focus has been, that we want to cultivate artists, we want to train them, we want to teach them, and also teach them about the business of entertainment, but then on our business side, plug into these other businesses. And then I think secondarily, I think the most important thing at that point then becomes making certain that if we want people to come here to be in Botswana, to actually do things from a legislation standpoint, I don't think that we need more regulation, I think we need less. I think that we don't need to create anything. I think that we just need to make it a little bit easier. You know, the film tax incentives, all those things take time, right? So I think for us right now, our major focus more than anything is Botswana's already ready. I think now it's really just about the people that are already on this stage, about saying how can we, as the people on this stage, begin to help cultivate and make sure that we plug into each other.
It's very interesting. Yati, what's your take on the issue? How can Botswana position itself internationally, leveraging of entertainment?
I think entertainment is such a great vehicle for cultural transmission. You know, we obviously know a lot about other countries in the world through their entertainment platforms. Some of them we watch on channels and on streaming platforms. We listen to their music, all of those things. We know a lot about their culture based on those things. The reverse needs to happen now. I think, especially post-COVID and even throughout COVID, but the world is so hungry for something new and something they haven't seen before. As someone who was born on African soil, raised in a country where all you see of Africa is Animal Planet, CNN and horrible news stories, which are true, but you know, those are the stories. And you know, stories of economic disaster or tragedies, things like that. That's all you ever see there. There's so much appetite now for the real story of the Africa and the Botswana and the countries that we come from that we know, that are full of luxury and innovation and creativity and opulence, that we need to celebrate on a global stage. And I think we need to get a little bit more arrogant about, because like you said, the talent is here. So what our responsibility is as people in the creative sector, in the industry, in private sector, government alongside that, is to create more opportunities to showcase that, both at home, across the continent, and abroad. Because if people are hungry, let's feed them. Let's feed them with what we know we do better than anybody else in the world. Everywhere you go, across the world, Africans dominate, whether it's the Olympics, the medical field, name an industry. We could be here all day. But this is something that we all know, and we see it every day. So I want us to become more arrogant about that and be proud to showcase our culture, so that in a few years, people just don't know about this one city, but they know about every administrative district across this country and what they're about and what they represent, and the stories from people from those areas. You know, I want someone in Sweden to understand what's happening here. I want them to be proud about coming here and not just seeing wildlife or the natural beauty, which are very good things. But I want them to celebrate coming here to see people, to see creatives at work, to buy from their fashion brands, to shop in their stores, to listen to their music, to eat their food. I want us to be arrogant, and I want us to be proud of what we do, because no one else does it like us.
Very interesting. Let's go over to you, Fred. You mentioned you're from Compton. What kind of opportunities exist internationally for a creative based in Botswana right now, from your perspective?
What I'm hearing, there's a lot of similarities to struggles in Compton, and the same thing in Botswana. It's eerily similar. But some of the opportunities, and I'll answer this two ways. Some of the obvious things that we have a lot of access. We're extremely connected with say, as far as an agency. Like the models we have, it's not just about booking a modeling job, but it's also the commercials and different things that because we are an agency, we know everything that's going on in the industry. That's one thing that the talent don't know. They don't know when these castings are and what commercials are out, they don't know that. But so by us being an agency, we can give them that information. By us being connected, one of my partners is Diane Warren. Diane is one of the biggest songwriters in the world. But we can put singers on demos, and then they end up staying on those demos, which end up keeping them on the record. So there's a lot of opportunities like that. But I think the most valuable thing that we do, and I think is a forgotten thing, is really the development. It's really training. Because if you just try to like get a job for this one or this one, sometimes that's not replicable. It's not sustainable. But I think that if you create these dynamics where you are training, the mentorship, teaching them the real stuff that happens in the industry. For example, people say they networking is important. And so a lot of the talent is going out to network at a club at 10 o'clock at night, between 10 and 2 p.m., and you thinking you're networking. You're not networking, you partying. And if that networking don't end up at a meeting between 9 and 5, you just went out and had a drink and a good time. So you end up wasting a lot of time thinking you're doing these things that you're supposed to do to get your career going, but it's a waste of time. So I think we are able to really be real with people and give them real mentorship. And then they're ready to actually capitalize off of these other opportunities that we have, which I think is more the easier part. It's not being ready when you get those opportunities. I think that's something that the Compton Modeling Agency offers, not just a job, but really having that talent be prepared to not just take advantage of it, but keep it and sustain it.
Very interesting. Monde, you talked about having the #1 channel in Africa. I don't recall seeing a Botswana artist in any of your channels in a long time, and I know for a fact, having an artistic background, that we have talent in Botswana. Why is that the case?
Well, I think I'll approach your question slightly differently, because I think for me the opportunity for the sector in Botswana is really about, one, defining the market. So I think the landscape, it's important for everyone in this industry to understand what's the landscape. Because that will then determine what are the trends, who's consuming, is there a market, is the market worth investing in to then recoup? Because that also kind of influences what's your strategy. What's your USP? Are you going to do Amapiano? Are you going to follow that trend? Or are you going to come up with your own trend? Are you going to do Afrobeat? Are you going to do Nollywood? Are you going to do, what's now, telenovelas? Novelas are like the thing now. Everyone's watching daily dramas, they're rating, so you can invest in that content. So I think it's really about defining it. I think we spend a lot of time creating and being very expressive, but we don't think about the market, because the market will determine the product, and we have to follow. So, using best practice, we follow trends. So you'll say to me, why on MTV Base or BET we don't see, Botswana music and pop culture, because we follow the trends. If you look around the continent, outside just Amapiano, hip hop, Afrobeats, bongo from East Africa, there's markets that are looking at that. The kids, the youth is looking at that. So from a Botswana perspective, how are we packaging our genre, or are we going to follow other trends? Because that's really how, you asked me to be very frank and direct and talk from a practical perspective.
Right.
It's really, we sit there, we look at where are the markets, what the market wants, we give the market wants, because it's about commercializing it.
Very interesting. And then over to you, the lady of the house. I believe you were showcasing in Zimbabwe sometime last week, if I'm not mistaken. What would it take for somebody in the fashion industry in Botswana to break out into the international market? Give me practical examples. Don't tell me to dream big. Give me practical examples.
I think it starts with just being authentic in your storytelling. Our stories are important, and when you tell them well, and when you execute them excellently, then they resonate with a global, they resonate in the global market. And it also starts with educating just even the local community on how to support local designers through e-commerce, how they can support that. People are not informed enough as to how to shop online or support designers locally. Another one is just getting the right materials here to be able to export them internationally. We don't have, the right fabrics don't come here. I'm always frustrated when I come here and I go through some of the fabric stores, and it's just the worst of the worst that's brought out here. So, but I also believe that for a local designer to break into the international market is when they tell their story authentically, execute what they do really well, and then there are people who are hungry for these authentic stories, authentic African storytelling, whether it's textiles, woven textiles. I'm wearing textile that's woven in Ethiopia, and the yarn comes from Ethiopia. It's woven in Kenya, and the bags are made by, the hardware is made by artisans in Kenya. So it's not about outsourcing as well. We can collaborate. When I work with somebody outside of the country, I feel like it's a cross-cultural conversation as opposed to outsourcing. So we should look into collaborating more. The biggest trend right now is technology and creative work hand in hand together, because you don't have a middle person. So you have your own space, you have the internet, you have Instagram, you have TikTok. You can use that to tell your story. And that there are people out there everywhere in the world, anywhere in the world. If you tell your story well, it'll resonate with somebody. So I think, yeah, that's just the key point is just authentic storytelling.
Okay, thank you very much. Storytelling. Mr. Makatini, now from a business and infrastructure perspective and having to interrogate the landscape in Botswana, what would you say the biggest hurdle that we need to overcome is to create something very sustainable in terms of the creative economy?
Thank you for the question. I think our approach as Prime Media is how do we leverage the ecosystem that we have? Because there are instances where you find that there's great talent, but there's no ways and means to profile that talent. So what then we did, we took our 360 unique value proposition, which is our radio stations, because you need to leverage radio station to profile some of these great talents. So we are making that available to profile these ideas and this talent, the talent. In most African countries in Africa, we have our billboard business. Sometimes when you take these talented individuals and you put them on the billboards and you connect it with the radio ecosystem that we have, and of course you profile that or you integrate that with the studio business where we're making content, all of a sudden you're giving more life, more legs to the brand. And that's our approach, and that's what we've availed. Denim spoke about partnership. Yeah. We have a partnership with him where he brings other elements that we don't have, but we've got an infrastructure that can basically bring life to what he's pursuing. It's about partnership, it's about collaborating, it's about playing to your strength, also not trying to be everywhere. I mean, Monde spoke about defining what your value proposition. Right. Once you clear in that, then we are able to plug in and be articulate about what contribution you're making, what angle are you coming with. In that way, not trying to play in every area, but leveraging what is there and taking yourself forward. That's basically our approach.
Very interesting, very interesting.
If I can also just build on that part, I think what's so important, and having been listening to the previous panel, there seems to be a gap between policy
Yeah.
and where the creative sector is. So it's not,
Yes.
technology
Yes, policy.
is moving. All of us here, we are impacted on a daily basis. I tell my staff and my teams that we do not compete with broadcasters. So MTV is not competing with Channel O, it's not competing with. We're competing with this thing. This is the power.
Yeah.
The consumer now has the power. They're generating their own content, they're turning it around, they are amplifying it, they're coming up with their own mobisodes, Insta Life. People are becoming celeb reality on this thing. They're driving celeb reality formats on this thing. So that we have to think about, and it's very important that the policymakers are actually have to be real about it. They're lagging. Policy is lagging. Technology is moving. Fragmentation is real. I was talking this morning, about fragmentation. About 20 years ago, we were talking about digital. DTT is coming. It's going to enable. I remember coming back my ETV days. We launched Botswana many moons ago, and we were talking about opportunities, new markets. It was a tech play. It was about satellites. Now you have to invest in a satellite, to create a platform. But these days it's different. It's the idea that the streamers are here. They've changed the game. Traditional media is no longer the thing. And I think as I was listening earlier, I kind of wanted to pinpoint that piece to say it's so important that we very quickly in Botswana enable a policy that is going to drive real impact and fast, because it's gone. And a big part of, if you don't have the tech, you don't have the platforms. You can't leverage the platforms, you can't leverage the talent, you can't connect an ecosystem where Denim is doing a telenovela, we come to you for talent, you do a casting, you do a wardrobe. You see how the ecosystems work. Prime Media is doing our campaigns, they're marketing our campaigns, we're leveraging their radio platforms, we're curating together. And I think it has to do a lot with the regulatory piece. Get that right, move fast on that, because that's going to really now bring value into the system.
Denim, he seems to have a different perspective from what you were saying earlier on, because you talked about over-regulation being a bit too much and policies, You've been around in Botswana for quite some time. What would you say? Do we need policy? Is our legislative framework not efficient enough? Or what exactly? What's your perspective on that?
Well, I think I think we have to just make a decision on what you want to be, because, you have to decide if you're going to move, you have to move quickly. We've seen what governments can do when they want to get something done. When there are certain initiatives and agendas, policies can get pushed through immediately. But that's because you can see a true value proposition. And I think, and I've known Monday for a while, we have these conversations all the time because I think it's so important, is that we absolutely need to have certain pieces of policy that's in place to be able to expedite the opportunities. And we're talking about it even not from a governmental, we're talking about it even from a financial, institutional level. We have a couple of projects that we've been working on. One of them, it's been 3 years dealing with one financial institution, right, to try to get funding for a project that was already greenlit, right? But because, as what Monday was talking about, things move so quickly. So if you say, hey, we want you to be on air second quarter of 26, and you go to a financial institution and say, hey, we actually have distribution, this is an amazing thing, then they take 2 years, 3 years to be able to do that. Well, by the time you go back, that deal's done because the industry's moved on, because as they said, we follow trends. So I think that we definitely have to have certain things in place, but I also think that from an artistic point of view, we also have to have more artists that are interested in the business side. There's a lot of artists, and I say this all the time, that your passion is going to make you poor, because so many artists come and they just think that it's like the Passion Olympics. I'm so passionate and therefore I will be successful. And that's not how it works. The companies want you to be passionate about how you're going to get them a return on investment. They want you to see their proposals. They want to see what the market trends are. They want to see who is your target market and what you've created. For an example, we had a time in the industry where only rom-coms were happening, romantic comedies. They're easy to make, they're easy to sell. But if you make a horror movie and then you try to pitch it, you can't get upset and say, well, I feel like my horror movie needs to be told. The trends say rom-coms are what it needs to be. So you have to kind of decide as a business that you can't get stuck. You have to constantly be willing to pivot with the trends. And as Monday was talking about as well, if you see that Amo Piano is the thing that's hitting or that Afro Beats is the thing that's hitting, no one is saying that you have to sacrifice or sell your soul to the trend. But if you want to get on the wave, you still got to get in the water. Right? And then once you get in, then what makes you unique is by being able to sit there and start to be on the surfboard and balance that. But sometimes we get so stuck on the local, the hyper local, it's got to be our story, it has to be look like this. And then the world just keeps going and we're still having the same conversations.
Right, so adaptation is key. Dr. Fred, I see you shaking, I see you nodding your head. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, I hear a lot about government. I heard it a lot about money. I think one of the person who was sitting here, listen, I'm gonna talk straight to the artist. There's a lot of stuff you can do without help from anybody. See, by the time you get to the record label or to the whatever you're trying to get, you have to prove, like my man was saying, that you can give them a return. Right? So I'm number 9 out of 10 kids. My sister, 3 kids live with us, and my mom and my daddy. 15 people in my house, in a small house in Compton. I played the recorder. They wanted me to play the saxophone. It was $6 a month to rent it, and we couldn't afford it. That was the seed that was planted in me, that I was gonna make sure a kid never money was not gonna be a reason why they couldn't pursue their dream. And I work like a dog to make sure I can bring resources without money. Everything I told you, I play the piano. This piano have taken me a lot of places. I ain't never had a piano lesson. We couldn't afford it. I would stay up all night. See, TV, y'all don't know nothing about this. But TV used to go off at 2 o'clock in the morning. Between 2 and 6, it said, ding. Right?
Yeah, I remember
and they would play Ray Charles, America the Beautiful, and I would stay up all night to hear the song, to try to remember it so I can play, because I play by ear. I didn't know nothing about no theory, none of that. And so I would stay up all night and call a DJ in the wee hours of the morning so they would play songs and I could record it, because my father was a TV repairman. So if we didn't have food, we at least had a TV because somebody wasn't gonna pay, and we had a TV and radio because they didn't pay, so we always had that. So this is the point that I'm making. I learned how to play the piano by listening. We didn't have YouTube tutorials and all that stuff. And I got out of school a year early. I started teaching high school at 17, 18 years old. When I told you about Ray Charles, I used to listen to him. One of the Grammys I have is working on Ray Charles' last record before he died, Genius Loves Company, right? And I'm sharing this because we had no money. Right? And even now today in Compton, I got Compton. We do Lakers halftime, Rams, we do all this stuff. Compton doesn't talk about nothing we do. They've given me not one penny, but that's not stopping us. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? You can't wait on that. But what's happening is we do something here, somebody see us, and we getting support from all over the place. We're not waiting on Compton or our government. You know what I mean? They'll catch up,
Yeah.
right? But it's other people. Tonight, we're doing a fashion show. Shein is our partner. This fashion show will be streamed on Shein's app, which will be in 150 countries, right? He ain't from Compton. So it's what you do that can bring attention with what my brother was talking about. Raise that phone up one more time. That's all you need right there. It takes you all over the world.
Yeah.
So artists, that's why it's important about development and training. You need to know and stop waiting to be spoon-fed certain things, that there's a lot you can do, and then these people want to partner with you. You understand what I'm saying? Y'all hear me? All right. I'm finished on that one.
Thank you very much, Dr. Frank. Right. On another note, here's what happens locally in Botswana. We have what we call tenders, right? Public sector opportunities. So I know a lot of people in the film industry, some are here, and they've got talent, they've got equipment, they've got great minds, and they're visionaries, but they can't do anything because they have no source of financing, and most importantly, nobody to consume their content, so they have to wait for government tenders, right? What do you call tenders in the US? Do you have such anyway? There's no such, oh man. From your perspective, is it possible to create a sustainable creative economy if we're solely going to depend on tenders? And this will move around.
No, guys, we can't depend on tenders. No ways. No, I think it's about understanding also how it works. You know, so you know, people like us, we run a platform. You are given a budget. You know, Paramount gives me a budget, and they give me, you know, I can do 5 productions from that budget. You know, I then start thinking, oh wow, okay, you've given me 5 cents to do 5 projects. How can I do 10 projects? And then I go to Prime Media, say, hey, Prime Media, let's co-produce. Bring your 5 cents, I do my 5 cents. So then I simplify that to the industry. You have someone who's a good guitarist. You've got someone who's a vocalist. How can they bring, you know, come together, come to the conference, bask out there, we done, we need a beer after a long day of talking. And we go out there, they bask for us, we take out some cash, we put it in there. You know, so there's that sense of entrepreneurship with Africans. We are so talented, we are so innovative, we just don't collaborate well with each other. Just don't collaborate well with each other. And I think we need to break that cycle. You know, we need to break that cycle because there's definitely opportunity without knocking on doors, you know. Then there's the other piece of, yes, you have an idea, a great idea. Can you imagine how many emails I get? Everyone's got the next great soapy. Everyone's got the next great drama. Everyone's got a biopic, you know. But what people don't do is they then go back to, okay, cool, I've got a great idea, but this idea serves a specific target market.
Right.
And I'm coming with a solution to BTV to say, BTV, you guys need content. I heard today, BTV needs content. I've got a library. But if I'm come to BTV, and I'm talking real experience here, if I come to BTV and I say, hey, BTV, here's Paramount. We've got content for the entire Botswana, from kids to you know, older age demos. BTV is going to have to go on a tender process. That means you will never do the deal. You'll never do the deal because I'm a different business. I'm a commercial business. I report on targets.
Correct.
I have ROI I need to deliver. My library that I've built over the last 20 years of Paramount, being on the continent, I need to commercialize that library. I've got public broadcast platforms who need content. I can go to them. I do these deals. I've done STV in Nigeria. We've got a partnership with them. We've got a 2-hour block, we give it to them. I've proposed to BTV. I've proposed to SABC. SABC buys my content. ETV buys all my telenovelas. If you look at Isono, Redemption, Queendom, Baby Jake Matlala biopic I've done, Lebu Matosa biopic I've done. They're sitting on SABC, on ETV, on other free-to-air market. So we have to get to the place where we understand that there's a value chain for content. It's possible. BTV should not be looking to fund itself or looking at the treasury to fund them or the president to fund them. They should be looking at what other partnerships are in the market that we can do dynamic business, win-win deals where we can bring content to the market. We can produce Mohapi. You know, can I tell them? Can I tell them? Okay, cool. Here. My partners allowed me to tell you guys and share because I think it's important. You know, the project we're working on, we are engaging with your public broadcaster here about. I'll put in 50%. He's putting 25%. BTV puts in 25%. All of a sudden, we are telling authentic Botswana, authentic content shot here for different markets. I'm a content distributor. So once we produce 130 episodes, those 130 episodes, we're going to go sell them everywhere. Netflix is going to buy it. Amazon's going to buy it. All the streamers. Disney is going to buy it. Bravo just launched this week. They're going to buy content because they need to localize. They need to appeal to an African market. So guess what happens? The public broadcaster becomes a shareholder in a viable commercial entity, in a commercial deal. I think that's where the solution is. We have to think, but we can't wait for a tender.
Right. Very insightful perspective right there. Mr. Makatini, what's your take on that one? Tenders, no tenders. What's your take?
Tender is not a business, and you can't wait for a tender. It basically means you might wait for the lifetime. So entrepreneurs are already out there doing what they're passionate about.
Yes.
You're not going to find them waiting for tenders. I think another important thing is this idea of trying to own 100% of nothing. It's very important to understand what you're good at and plug into others. And in that connection, you may be owning 10% of something worth R1 billion or R1 billion bullets. That should be the approach.
Right. Denim.
The answer is a resounding no. The reality of it is that's not business, that's not economics. There is no sustainable model when you say tenders. How does a tender create sustainable jobs, right? What it does is tenders create a great press release, but it doesn't change lives in the way that most people think it does. Because if you get a tender, you're saying, hey, in the newspaper, look at this, somebody's been given a tender, but what's the KPI on whether or not the tender was actually actionable, right? How are we measuring the fact that the money that was given actually transformed lives? And when we're saying from a policy perspective that we want sustainability, what happens next season if you don't get the tender? Now you've built an entire business model off of tenders. So you have to go and create something sustainable outside of that. The other part of this, and it's just the reality, it's not here in Botswana, it's not in South Africa, it's all over the continent when it's based upon tenders. There's a lot of gatekeeping that happens in this entertainment industry or this business of entertainment. And so when you start to talk about tenders, oftentimes people will get tenders and then they'll be asked to produce shows. And then you look at the shows that are being produced and you're asking where the money went because you don't see it on the screen. And we have a thing in television and film where we say that all the money should be on the camera. That's the thing. When you're looking at a production, you have to sit there and go, for an example, Yellowstone, the series that I'm on for the last 7 years, we spend $13 to $17 million an episode, but you can see all the money on the screen, right? And so it doesn't mean that the producers can't make money. The producers make a really good living, right? But so do the actors and so do the wardrobe stylists. There's people that are winning Emmy Awards. They're going all over the world, having multiple jobs because what your brand, what your products are, when you're a fashion designer, when you're doing all these different things, and they spend the money and you can see the money on the screen, people go, who dressed this? Who did this? Where did these artists come from? But when you have a small group of people that take money and then tell artists, it's here in Botswana, this happens all the time, hey, we need you to do this, but we need you to bring your own wardrobe to set. And we need you to do your own hair and your own makeup and your own this and your own that. And you're asking yourself, well, where did the money go?
Yeah.
And then we complain about how there's no industry, but oftentimes we point at government, but government's sitting there going, well, it's not like we haven't given money. It's not like we haven't put money out there. So we don't always go after the right people, but that's not a sustainable thing. So my thought process is the same thing with how we have with Prime Media, how we have with Paramount. We don't need to own 100% of nothing. We can sit here all day and talk about all the great ideas, but if we're just talking about them at home, who cares? I would rather plug into you and say, great, I can get 25%, I can get 50%, you take 50%. Now we're winning and we're creating employment and we're creating opportunities. So we can't get stuck on stupid.
Very interesting. Yati, over to you.
It's been said.
Okay.
What he said was, a piece of the pie tastes like the whole pie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the key thing that keeps cropping up every now and then is collaboration, right?
Yeah.
What role do you think the private sector can play in Botswana proactively? Not from a PR perspective of ticking boxes, proactively, what can they do to uplift the creative economy? Yes, Yati.
First and foremost, they have to see themselves in the economy, right? I think that and I think this is more of a question because this is what you guys do as well as for Prime Media. For markets here, this is part of the international appeal. If you go to any major corporation, let's say Cephalana or Choppies or whatever, and you say, hey, product placement is a big thing. Monday we can speak to this as well. If you say, okay, we have 100 Choppies already here in Botswana, but then a creative comes and says, hey, we want to do product placement, and Choppies is going to say, okay, that's interesting. So what does that mean? Well, every time that the major actor comes in this board meeting, that he's going to drink a bottle of water and it's going to have Choppies on there, and Choppies will go, how much do we need to pay for that? And then the next question after that, they're going to ask you, where will people see it? And if you say, well, the people in Botswana will see it, and they're like, but we're already in 100 stores in Botswana, what value proposition do we have for that? So the way that we can get businesses more involved is if you're creating a high international standard to be able to leverage with a Prime Media, with a Paramount, with billboards, with Times, with all of these different things, to be able to say, hey, if we put a really great project together and a product, I can go create a TV series, go to all the major manufacturing centers and say, how much money would you pay to have your products be aired on Paramount? To be able to have it be distributed all over Africa or in 8 countries on the continent with Prime Media. Now you're bringing value, not asking for an opportunity, because you're bringing them something. And that's the best way for us to be able to plug in the ecosystem here in Botswana.
Over to you, Yati.
So I'm going to zoom out from that a little bit. And I know I'm standing here in a music capacity, but as an editor, I've covered music, fashion, all elements of lifestyle. And I can talk about this from that perspective as well. And I think what Mr. Matabisi said in the previous panel about how the creative industry is not an industry that is outside of everything else. It exists, it's like water. You know, it's in everything that we touch. When you get in your car and the little bell tells you to buckle your seatbelt, a musician designed that note and chose that note. When you turn on your washing machine and your washing machine tells you, oh, the washing is finished, that note, somebody chose it. That was a creative person. So the creative industry is all around us. What I think, and it's so great to see on these screens, all these brand partners and banks and mobile networks, it's fantastic. But on the practical level, I want those people who represent those companies and those agencies and those entities to think about their role in the creative space and working with creatives. Because as we said, if creatives everywhere, how are they getting involved? Here's a practical example, actually 2. 2004, I was living in the US. I saw a commercial for a department store, and there was a song that they used that I just fell in love with. It was so much fun, it was funky, it reminded me of Prince. I still listen to that musician 21 years later, because I fell in love with the sound back then. The point of that is somebody, whether it was at brand at the department store or an agency that was commissioning that creative work said, we're going to choose music to fit this advert. So locally, are you at the bank or the creative agency that the bank commissions, are you choosing music that is representative of the country in which you're marketing to? Because if you choose music from Post Sabina and put it in your bank's TV advert, I'm going to say, wait a minute, who is that?
Yes.
I'm going to go find out about her. And then I'm going to say, well, let me buy the album. Let me stream it. Let me buy tickets to see her perform. That's fantastic. Now you've done that, and that's just, I'm one person. Imagine 10,000 people doing the same thing. If you work at the bank, I'm going to use the bank as my example today. But if you work at the bank and you are creating a brochure for your new home loan product, and that brochure has photos, are you buying those photos from a stock image library that's based in London or New York? Or are you saying, well, if our bank is based in Gaborone, why are we not using images from Gaborone? So then to create that further, let's commission a photographer from this city to photograph people from this city, wearing designs from this city.
Right.
In that collateral, because I'll walk into that bank and I'll say, hey, that looks like me. I could own a home tomorrow. Great. Again, I'm one person. Do that 10,000 times. It's that kind of real practical stuff that I want to see happen more often, because the byproduct of that, as someone like me who is an editor, who will, first of all, look for things like that to platform, to say, okay, wait a minute. This person's song was featured in this advert for this mobile network and in this shopping center, and this hotel commissioned this painter to do all of their artwork for their interiors or their hotel rooms. So now when I'm looking for artists to profile in my platform, I'll say, wait, they already have a profile. Fantastic. Let me help build that. A brand will look at my platform to say, hey, we're Remy Martin, based in France, but we want to work with more talent from Botswana. Let me find out how their work has been propagated. You know, who's popular? Let me go to Billboard. Let me go to another lifestyle publication. Who's been published there? We'll hire them. I've seen those practical examples happen very often, where people will pick up something I've published and say, cool, do you have contact details for that chef? We want to hire them to cater our event. How fantastic. There's so many more examples like that that we need to really make happen. But you know, it's kind of the example of, if you tell people to train as doctors, but you don't build hospitals for them to work in, what's the point? Create the opportunities where you are and in your networks and where you are to empower creatives, because like Dr. Fred was saying, he's gonna create songs. He's gonna learn the music at 2 a.m. naturally. He's gonna do it. What are you doing to empower what he's doing to represent the city, the country, the culture that you're from, and give it a real practical platform?
That's true.
One day.
That's a great point. I think from, brands, private sector brands are there to do business. They have to sell product. You want to get the product to move off the shelf. That's it. What influences that? What moves product off the shelf is culture.
Yeah.
At the heart of it all, it's culture. We are creatures who are influenced by lived experiences. Things are changing. I spoke to how tech has created this evolution and shift. We're now banking on our mobile. I'm shopping for your gear, man. I'm shopping for your gear. I'm going to find it online. I'm going to transact online.
Right,
I don't have to now go to a bank to put a card, withdraw, because someone's going to rob me now. You see, So lived experiences are really influencing culture. Brands want to sell based on culture, or what the culture and the trend of the day is. So they're forced to do that anyway. So for us in kind of the creative sector, whether you're in broadcasting, music, wherever, we have to be immersed in culture. We have to be immersed in reflecting and being a mirror for lived experiences, for brands to come and buy our airtime, for brands to want to transact with us because we have these great pockets of audiences. A bank, funny thing, guys, I've done deals with 4 banks, ABSA, FNB, Capitec, and Nedbank. All of them right now are trying to bank young people. So where they come to MTV Base. MTV Base, you've got the demo. You're the biggest music platform, youth lifestyle, long-form reality shows. We want to bank those kids. Do something for us. Then I have to then create bespoke campaigns for them. They're no longer going to agencies. They're coming directly to the creatives. They don't go to agencies. They come straight to, production companies, creators. They're coming straight to musicians, directly to musicians, and say, hey, create. Hey, Z, Zingomano, youngest, biggest female amapiano artist coming up now. They're saying to her, we want you because you represent a culture that we want to commercialize. So if we all just prioritize telling stories from lived experiences that are authentic, that are truly African, we will convert brands because brands want culture.
Very interesting. Okay, so you've been in the fashion space.
Yeah.
You've been in the fashion space locally and now you're playing internationally. Would you say the private sector is doing enough, if anything, for the fashion space in Botswana, according to you?
In terms of support,
Yeah.
or I think there could be more support, like Kosiati mentioned, that we need to give access to our own people, use our own faces. We have Kaoneka Rio, when people create campaigns, we need to use our music. It's just important for visibility. It just starts with us, to be able to give our homegrown talent access first,
I think also there's a point there about access too.
Yes.
Because sometimes policy, like you're saying, takes too long. But on a private sector level, if you're a developer of a mall and you want to attract all these luxury brands in there, why not make sure there's space for a local brand to be in there as well?
Right.
At some kind of discount, work it out, whatever you want to do, but make sure that that space is there.
Yes, that's the access that I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, access is really important because creatives want to be seen. They want to be heard. So when the support comes from a big organization, it just, that's what we want. We just want to be seen. And it's important to be able to have access to grow and to also feel like you can now, step into the global stage if you didn't feel that way. So once people feel supported, they want to do more.
I was in Kansas City last week, and Kansas City is known for its barbecue, and so they have this local barbecue contest, and the winner of the barbecue contest, they give them a free space in the airport for a year to help them with. I was like, now that's dope. And you talk about access and support. That's support. And it wasn't a small space. It was a huge space. And they gave it to them for a year to grow their business. Now, after that, the year is up, where are they going to go put their business at? In Kansas City. So, yeah.
Very interesting right there. Okay, slowly we're going to draw the conversation to a close. I'd like also to open questions to the audience out there. But as we do that, I think it was you, Dr. Fred, you talked about mentoring and collaboration at some point. Would you be open to mentoring or adopting an artist here in Botswana? Because the whole idea of you being here, like I said, we've been to many workshops like this where people are just talking. We need practical examples. Would you be open to adopting an artist so that they can see themselves on platforms like Compton or Kansas cooking barbecues, like you're saying?
Open ain't even the word. Listen, I run everything like a family, right? I feel like I'm from Botswana. I've been here since Sunday. I feel like let me say it right. Botswana. I'm from Bots. Okay, but to answer your question, I actually met your president in LA about 6 months ago.
Right.
And it was 30 people in the room. And out of that 30, I talked to Mr. Kales. I'm the only one who followed through. And here we are today. We were we were actually trying to get models with Kutlo to come to Compton Fashion Week even before this. So this is not a one-off for me, at nowhere near a one-off. I don't believe in that. I believe in sustainability. I already had a meeting with one of your artists yesterday. I will tell you this, and I keep my word. These models that we're using, oh yeah, with the partnership with Sheen, brand ambassadors, right? You know, the artists some of the artists, you guys are dope. There's so much talent here. I'm super excited. The choir, the dance. So to answer your question, arousing, hell yes.
That's great. I'll make sure they take you to one of the chisanyamas here. We call it braai, not barbecue, so I'll make sure that happens. Okay. And what are the big global trends in media and entertainment that we as Botswana creatives need to prepare for? What are the biggest trends that are happening that we need to get ready for? I'll give 30 seconds to each one of the speakers. Over to you, sir.
The trends are so many. There's so much happening in the space right now. The media industry is really, it's going through a consolidation. So the idea for me is that everything that we do from an African perspective, and particularly storytelling and content, needs to really achieve a couple of things. It needs to be a multi-platform strategy. So if we are going to put investment into storytelling for Botswana, not storytelling by Botswana for the world, we need to then make sure that we create from a multi-territory perspective. So we're going to create storytelling from here, whether it's music, it's digital platform, whatever, but how are we then accessing multiple platforms to monetize your content and your investment? I think that's an area, so it's kind of a multi-platform, multi-territory strategy. And I'm simplifying it because it's best practice. US media businesses are in the continent. They're here. I'm here. I'm sitting here. I'm South African. I'm African first. But they are here. And they are, we've consumed US Western content from many times. Now we have multi-platform and digital platforms, streaming platforms. We were talking this morning about, hey man, I think we need to find money, man. No, we need Africa to own its own streaming platform. Yeah. Asia's doing it, China's doing it. Okay? We can't be so dependent on shifting of narratives. The sum of these platforms must be for Africa by Africans, and that will then enable us to then take those platforms to the world so that we can now take our content abroad. I'll give you an example. Just did a series called Pound for Pound. It's a female boxing series that's showing, it's been bought by US entities. It's showing in the US, it's doing successfully. They're asking me now, are you doing season 2? We've had our telenovelas. We got Redemption, which is a telenovela we did for BT 2 years ago. That's now showing for BT plus streaming in the US. Okay? And those are co-productions, so it's not us just investing. We've got partners, local partners, that are also, taking a share of the pie. So the world is ready for our stories. Please, guys, you guys live there. Tell them the world is ready for our stories. Yes. We just need to be ready. The world is ready. We just need to be ready. Right. And execute. And I think these are the trends I'm seeing. There's a shift in the market. We are gold. We are culture. You look at our fashion is traveling. Laduma, Makosa. He was with us at the BT Awards 2 years in a row. He opened his shop. he's got a store, he's got an outlet in New York. Before he opened it in New York, he was running around following us because obviously as a media company, we partner with him. And it's about access. He got that access to a market. He opened a store. I don't own a single Maxhosa garment because I can't afford it. I can't afford it. And he's my friend. He's my friend. I can't afford it. But what I'm saying is that there's also this thing of, there's a designer who's doing this, but they're expensive. Or, I want to book, I'm doing a show, I want to book a Botswana artist. Where's Mpo? I want to book Mpo. And, her rate, no, her rate is too high. Let me rather get another smaller artist. No, guys, she's a brand. Yes. She's value. Yes. So let's also stop undervaluing our culture and undervaluing ourselves.
Very interesting. Yeah. Mr. Makatini, global trends we need to look out for in media and entertainment that we must prepare for as Botswana creatives. What's your take?
I think one basic one, gone are the days where anything global or international was more compelling and attractive. Local these days is the new compelling. Yeah. So the other interesting thing is that client or consumer preferences are changing, which then present an opportunity for anything unique and novel to be able to stick and be able to appeal to someone. So those are the two important things that we need to look at. So diversity for me is an opportunity for us to commercialize what is unique about us. Because all of a sudden, people are looking for stuff that is unique, stuff that shows heritage, stuff that stands out. And Africa has that, and we need to leverage that and harvest it significantly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it, I'll mirror a lot of the same things. I think you have to have the diversification. So for instance, even for Mohapi, when we're casting that, it's going to be a Pan-African casting. We're going to get stars from Nigeria, stars from Kenya, stars from South Africa, stars from Botswana. But you can't rely, there's no business now that can be so insular that they're only thinking about their own radius. The business will die. So you have to be willing to open it up. And I think that for all businesses, especially when it comes to entertainment, you have to, which also means that the artists have to be even more prepared and even more trained, because it's one thing where you're saying, hey, I'm in the fishbowl with just myself and a couple other people. Now we're saying, no, the world is so big now that you're going into an ocean. And so we're trying to kind of create in this vibrancy situation, this kind of opportunity where it's a blue ocean, but it's really, really challenging. It doesn't mean that we can't, and we will, but that means the artists also have to be prepared. So when you are asking for the opportunity, and the opportunity is there, you must be willing to fully capitalize on what that opportunity actually is. Yeah.
Last words, Yati?
Yeah, I'd say, and I love her, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love her. Don't try to sound, as a musician, let me put my music hat on. I love her, as I said. Don't try to sound like Ciara. Ciara's trying to sound like you right now. So make sure you sound like you. I hear from my colleagues and friends every day around the world the funniest stories. It's funny to me because, I mean, how? But how Amapiano, as an example, is spreading. We get mails from people in Germany who say, hi, I'm a German DJ and I make Amapiano. Or, hi, I'm Korean, I make Afrobeats. How? But they do, because they love what we do. I was in Nigeria last week. There were people from Colombia, Brazil, also making Afrobeats. Everyone loves what we do. Don't try to sound like them. They're trying to sound like you. I want you to sound like you, and it's your superpower.
This one thing. I think also there's a big thing when it comes to entertainment when we're talking about language. You talk about all the time, people are trying to create these stories and they're like, okay, we're trying to create these Anglo-American story narratives and trying to mirror a culture that you don't have. And then it feels like, oh, well, it's not going to get sold because if I want to do it in Zulu, if I want to do it in Setswana, it's not going to get sold. And then if you look at these real models, like in South Korea, there's a lot of people that watch K-pop all over this continent, and nobody ever has a problem reading subtitles in Korean, right? They don't care. But the difference of that is the quality is really, really high. So if you are going to do that, there's nothing wrong with being able to do things in your own language, in the native language, but the quality and the execution must be high.
Absolutely. Dr. Fred.
I would say, and this is probably unpopular, but the trend that I think you have to be ready for is AI. You have to learn it. It's here. It's writing your captions for you on Instagram. It's here, and you have to embrace it and see how it don't have to replace everything. You got to see how you can use it in your business. It's a lot of stuff. You artists that think you can't afford things, Tyler Perry halted an expansion of $700 and something million on his studio because he knew AI was here. So he was like, that's gonna be a waste of money. So that trend, and a lot of people think, oh, it's taking this, it happens. But you can learn how to use it. It can jumpstart ideas. They don't have to take the place of your ideas. But I think that trend is gonna be vital, not just as artists, but it's gonna be vital for everybody to learn how to use AI to enhance whatever business you wanna go into.
Thank you very much.
That's
Over to you, Cookie.
I did mention earlier that one of the biggest trends is technology merging with creativity through content creation and authentic storytelling. I think that's the general consensus here, is that our stories don't have to leave. We don't have to leave Botswana to have a global story. You can tell your story right here in Botswana. Because our stories are here, our stories are important, and people are yearning for that. They want authentic stories, and if they're executed well, then the world is our oyster. We can do it right here.
Brilliant stuff. I believe there's a roving mic somewhere. I'm sure there's one or two questions we can take. Any questions? Whoa, I said one or two, not everybody.
And collaboration as well. Yeah, collaboration.
There's a roving mic.
Dumelang le kae? Khamegwa Banzi, popularly known as Zeus. Thank you for a fire panel. Denim, your growth is incredible, man. Like, I can hear how much you've grown in the couple of years since we last met. MTV Base, we debuted a new song last year on that platform. So yes, Botswana Ade. I'll be engaging with a lot of you guys, but one thing that I feel like we're missing a lot, and I heard this even earlier, was the Botswana sound conversation. I just want to remind us, we do have a lot that we've already done, right? So let's not speak like we don't have anything. My challenge is how do we package this, especially collectively, and send it out to the world? If you know me and my music, we come from a Motsako space, Motsako was a revolution that changed everything. Even from an identity, anthropology, culture standpoint, it's way bigger than art and entertainment. It's amazing to see the new wave of Motsako, the Jackalas One Times, the Rockefellers, in South Africa, the Magleras, So let's not lose the gold that we've already done in search for something else, from the last project, Kotsi, which we actually, I don't know if we made it to MTV Base, but I know Channel O and Trace played it. There's a little bit of a piano feel in there, you know what I mean? But still, it stays true to the culture. Another sound, House Kwasa. House Kwasa breaks my heart. You guys call it Lekompo now. In all honesty, that is House Kwasa. It dates back. One of the reasons why guys like V, people like Sliza get so much love in Limpopo, people like Maxi, is because of what they've done in the past. That DNA is strong, you know what I mean? But funny enough, there was a point where in Botswana, we were too cool for House Kwasa. Certain stations would actually even tell you, we don't play that, you know what I mean? So let's start identifying and acknowledging the gold. The last one maybe I'll mention is folk music. We all know the Kulenyana story, you know what I mean? So let's start really packaging these things properly and rolling them out. You know, another thing to shout out Motswako and Double HP, God rest his soul. He literally put an umbrella under us, you know what I mean? From Botswana to Northern Cape, Lesotho, you know? We need to see that type of Motswako Republic. The tour was here. The tour launched here. They forget us when they go back to South Africa. But the tour was here this year, you know? So let's figure out what we do to umbrella our cultures, our sounds. Thank you.
I know that was not a question, but thanks for sharing, and we'll talk. But I wanted to give you an example of how important it is to package. And I'll give you two examples, which one is GOM. GOM was coming out, KZN, you know, it was really KZN-centric vibe. It was not spreading. But what we then did is it was a genre that was popping up. We plugged in and we created GOM Nation. So GOM Nation was very simple, very simple. No one knew about it. We took the GOM artists of the time who were also just popping up. We put them in a hall like this. We recorded them into a show we called it with dancers. We called it GOM Nation. They didn't have music videos. So from that shoot, they all came because they were artists. They wanted a platform. We recognized the trend, and then we said, cool, but if you don't have a video, I can't play your music. What can I do? I'm a visual platform. Maybe radio can do that, but not us. But what we did is we then realized this trend is bubbling. We came in, we packaged it into I think we did about 2 seasons of GOM Nation, packaged them. And then what then happened is that the artists came in to collaborate with us. Each artist then walked out with a music video, but it was actually a TV show. So I'm giving you an idea of how we then can collaborate. How do we take the genres that are Botswana genres, authentically from here, but then we package it so that when the trend hits, you go into new markets. People everywhere are looking for what's next, every time. So it's bound to land elsewhere, but you're correct, it is about packaging it, but it's about packaging it 360, visually, digital, and obviously the music must be good, make me dance, make me move.
Sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is DJ Frostbite. I just have a couple of points to make here. The first one was, I think it was the gentleman from Paramount. He said, follow the trends. And I think my biggest challenge as a creative, I'm the multi-talented. So my biggest challenge as a creative is, do we follow the trend or do we set our own? Like, you know, I feel like there's a lot of, you know, culturally important things in Botswana that we can tap into to make a new trend, whether it be in the visual arts, whether it be in our music. So, you know, I don't know, you guys maybe can advise on how do we strike a balance between, you know, following a trend and also being true to ourselves. And then one of the panelists spoke about policy. Which I think is a thing that we should really, you know, talk about a lot, because, you know, policy in Botswana makes it, I don't know how, you know, up to date I am about this, but, you know, policy in Botswana dictates that alcohol isn't meant to be advertised. But in South Africa, alcohol is meant to be advertised. And Castle Lager sponsors the Springboks, they sponsor the Proteas, they sponsor all these sports teams, and those teams are excelling on the international you know, stage. And I feel like just one of those, just like one little, you know, I think, what can I say, like adjustment to policy can allow, you know, companies, the private sector that you guys were talking about, can allow the private sector to get more involved in terms of where the ROI can be, right? And then last but not least, I want to talk about Botswana as a country and how the reason why we don't really have, documented parts of our history. South Africa does a very good job at, educating us about, the people that came before us, your Hector Petersons, all those struggle heroes, all those, pioneers of music, jazz, all of those things. South Africa does a very good job of letting us know who those people are. I, as a musician, don't really know, a lot of our forefathers and the people that paved the way for us. And it's because culturally we don't have a culture of documenting things. We don't tell those stories. Do you understand? It's a really big, something that breaks my heart a lot, because there's a lot of things that we don't know. Like, even when it comes to apartheid, there's a lot of people that played a very active role in helping, your leaders in Botswana. We don't know any of those people. Just like really close to where we are right now, there was a bombing of some sorts because somebody was sheltering an apartheid refugee. We don't have a single documentary about that. We don't have a single documentary about the origins of our music. We don't have a single documentary about a lot of things. And I think culturally, as Botswana, that culture needs to change. And, we need to speak more about where our storytellers are. While these, fountains of knowledge are still alive, let's grab our cameras and interview.
Yeah, that's why it's our duty to educate ourselves and tell the stories,
I think he had one question. He said about setting the trend or following the trend or setting your own. I don't think it's I think sometimes artists, once you hear a certain thing, it triggers you thinking you have to compromise your originality. But following the trend is just knowing what's out there, the sound. It's not, I don't think he was saying like you are compromising either or, like either be an original artist or do covers. It's not that. It's just kind of knowing, what the sound is and what's happening, but you can always add your creativity to it. So I wanted to address that. I know you asked that question.
I'll also answer it from the perspective of what I think I was trying to articulate to you was around trending means it. This game is an art and science to what we do. It's a combination of art and science. For you to say my creativity is X, or my talent is X, and I'm going to then record or I'm going to do a TV program, it has to be measurable to a market. So that's the kind of trending I'm talking about, that there's a market out there. What are young people doing today? What are they dancing to? What are they wearing? What sneakers it is? Is it Adidas? Is it Nike? What is it? What are the trends? We all in business have to trend in terms of where is the market at this particular time. I think that I was talking to that component. And then there's the other part of trends, in the sense that, yes, you can be a leader. You can be a thought leader in something that then helps you then shift and change, because this continent is a young continent. We're the youngest continent in the world. That means we have more adopters in our ecosystem than any other continent in the world. So we need to be flexible, adaptable to where it's popping. That's why it's called pop culture. It's where it's popping. So if it's K-pop today, it's K-pop, guys. That's where it's at. We're talking about Ciara. She is wanting to dance like you because you are what the culture and the trend is right now. It will change tomorrow to something else. It will change tomorrow to something else. And we need to be adaptable. I'll take it back to that's what brands want. There's a gentleman in the other panel spoke about, from the Business Forum, spoke about ability to commercialize a creative sector. The problem is that we want to create, We want to create, we want to paint beautiful pictures. Without measuring it, you will not be sellable. Tell my people, must sell. Everything we do as a business must sell. It's been my principle forever. It must rate, as it must, you must grow your audience base. It must matter to someone. They must have passion about what you are projecting. Your song must make people dance. If it doesn't make people dance, how are you going to commercialize it? How are you going to go to brands? How are brands going to want to put your song on an ad because it's now pop culture? You know, I think I'm trying to answer you in like one go, but that's what I'm trying to say. There's an art and a science that's linked to the business. And if we're going to be successful, we have to measure our output. We can't just continue to paint beautiful pictures that make nobody any revenue. We can't feed families. We can't create jobs because it sounds nice. It looks nice. No.
Thanks for that, Monday. Any questions on the floor from a lady, please? It's been gents all along.
Just a quick announcement, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, so we will only take 2 last questions from 2 people. 1 question per person. Please keep it concise.
Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bontla Mokotlwane. I am from Realbots Agency. So I love the fact that we're mentioning the business side of film and the creative industry, because our agency is basically where we market and distribute films, documentaries, and series. So, as the gentlemen that are from Prime Media and Paramount Pictures, we have long been going to South Africa when we need to get in contact with you, but now we have created our own establishment to reach you. How do we get in contact to represent Botswana on your platforms and sell our content on your platforms? Because we have a plethora, a library, enough to go for years back, that needs to be seen by audiences. And people are creating, even now as I'm here, I know a few filmmakers who are on the field producing at this minute. How do we go about that?
Mr. Makatini, try.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. It's great that you created something. I'm keen to engage with you to understand what you've got in your catalog and how that relates or links with the brands and the work that we're doing here. So we can connect after the session.
Brilliant.
Greetings to everyone. My name is Thabiso Dibela Sekhoma. I'm a fashion designer by profession. It's not a question per se, but maybe a challenge to everyone in this room. Maybe except from our international guests here. How many of you live in Botswana and right now you are wearing a Botswana-made product, a Botswana-made suit? How many? It will be a handful of us. I want to say pride. As Botswana, are we proud of what we manufacture? Are we proud of our products? To me, it says, it starts there. Can we start home so that as we go international, then we know that even our people are proud of what we do?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Hence the hashtag BuyBW. Thank you very much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time, unfortunately, this is where we draw close to this fantastic panel discussion.
There's a question.
Sorry? What was the question? They said they're going to engage. You should have asked that question to engage them. You'll be part of the conversation, don't worry. BITC creates a platform for creatives as well as people like them to engage. So hey, check us out. Ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time, I think this is where we're going to draw close to this discussion. To our panelists, thank you very much for those insightful, thought-provoking conversations. Yeah, and to our audience, you also are brilliant. They are not leaving right now. Engage with them as best as you can and leverage of this platform. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Goodbye.